#1 choice for Air Guard News. This is First Air Force Now.
Hello, and welcome again to another edition of First Air Force Now. I'm Master Sergeant Jerry Harlan. 120th Fighter Wing pilots, maintenance, personnel, and aircraft recently performed an important alert fighter mission in Alaska. Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson reports.
Approximately 50 members of the 120th Fighter Wing are supporting Expeditionary Fighter Squadron operations at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. The Montana Vigilantes perform a twofold mission while deployed to Alaska. They provide air sovereignty alert for the defense of our homeland and stand ready to intercept foreign aircraft violating United States airspace. The Montana unit had just completed a similar alert mission in Hawaii, so it was natural for them to volunteer for this new responsibility.
PACAF needed somebody to come up here and fill in for the F-22s while they're going through some modifications, and we were a perfect unit for that. It fell right in place for us. It helped them out and it helped us out, perfect timing for us.
To stay proficient in their alert mission, the Vigilantes perform periodic practice scrambles of their aircraft.
Well, obviously, practice makes perfect. The more we can practice, the better we get, the more efficient we get, and it just works better all around.
When the klaxon sounds, pilots rush to their fighter jets while maintenance crews rapidly prepare their aircraft to be flown. This recurring training helps keep them ready for when they are needed.
Oh, it's just like anything else that we do in the military. You know, the more you practice, the better you are at it, and you're constantly practicing for that one real-world time.
The Montana Air National Guard fighter pilots and maintenance personnel are scheduled to perform this mission through the month of April. This is Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson reporting for First Air Force Now.
Birth and graduation were two of the recurring analogies used as members of the North Dakota Air Guard's 219th Security Forces Squadron made history. Sergeant First Class Amy Weezer-Wilson reports.
In 2007, the North Dakota Air Guard's security forces began a partnership with the Minot Air Force Base to provide security in the missile fields.
This is a major exercise that culminates a 5-year process of having the 219th seamlessly integrate day to day into the missile field with the active forces. So huge milestone, major success for the Guard and active duty integration.
This is the first time we've tested the full capabilities of them being inserted on their own to an entire northern sector. It's a phenomenal event. It's something that I tell you, for me as a career enlisted man, I'm blown away. It is really awesome to see the counterparts and capabilities that they've done.
The 219th integration was seamless between the Guard and the active duty forces, and that's the point. As they show up to deter, delay, and deny access, you can't tell active duty from Guard, and I thought the exercise went off fantastically.
They cut it, they check it? They didn't cut it, they check it.
All right. This is a culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of people within the state of North Dakota, outside the state of North Dakota. Certainly it's a team effort here at Minot with the 91st Security Forces Group, 91st Missile Wing, and the seamless integration to perform the Chief of Staff's #1 priority of nuclear deterrence operations. So I'm ecstatic.
Captain Greg Goodman, who works as the 219th Operations Officer, served as the on-scene commander for the exercise, directing both active duty and Guard forces across more than 4,000 square miles of mission area.
This is what we do day to day. Every time we trip out to the missile field, we conduct recapture exercises at the flight level. This is just a matter of scale, really. There's more pieces to control, more command and control, a lot more communication, obviously, from what you saw.
This exercise was the equivalent of the 219th Squadron's graduation day.
So thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for what you did this morning. You know, for me, it was an eye-opener. You know, as I said, I had no clue what to expect when I got here, but what I saw was very gratifying.
Reporting for First Air Force Now, I'm Sergeant First Class Amy Weezer-Wilson.
Non-destructive inspections are providing safety and saving money at one wing of the Air National Guard. Tech Sergeant Matt Hecht brings us the story.
At the 177th Fighter Wing NDI shop, airmen are saving man-hours and keeping pilots safer with science.
NDI stands for non-destructive inspection. It's a form of inspection that is used to back up other methods such as visual. We can look at certain high failure items and understand if they're failing or if they are showing symptoms of failure. We're looking for stress corrosion, stress cracks. We're also able to use the oil analysis program to trend what might be going wrong with the jet engine.
NDI is a big deal when it comes to cracks in our parts and the wear metals in the oil. If there's two pieces of metal wearing together and the wear metals are in the oil, we're going to pick it up on the machine behind me. And usually the readings are low. If we get a spike, we'll reburn it, we'll ask for another sample, and if it's still high, that means there's something wrong in the engine.
In this shop, we basically do some inspections repetitively, and it's a good feeling when we don't find anything. It's also exciting when we do find something, because we realize that this small crack that we find could have actually become detrimental to the aircraft. By finding these small cracks and defects, we're able to take an item out of service and have somebody work on it to where the aircraft can return in top condition.
Our shop is a very influential part to the F-16s. If we don't catch a crack, there could be a catastrophic failure in the air, and that lands on our shoulders.
How they're able to find cracks, how they're able to measure items that you can't even see with a microscope. They can use ultrasonic waves, they can use eddy currents, fluorescent magnetic particle, oil sampling. Any one of these items can potentially save an aircraft or a life, and that's pretty neat.
Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, this is Technical Sergeant Matt Hecht.
Members of the 157th Aircraft Maintenance Group bid farewell to one of their most experienced aircraft. Tech Sergeant Thomas Johnson reports from Pease Air Guard Base.
Since its arrival in 2003, Aircraft 008 has logged 1,478 sorties during its affiliation with the Pease Air National Guard Base. Lieutenant Colonel John Pagoric reflects on the plane's retirement and what the plane represents to the people of the 157th Air Refueling Wing.
As I think about it, how many phases have this plane gone through? How many modifications has it done? How many struts? How many booms have we changed? How many times have people gone into those fuel tanks and all those places just to get it right? We also look at what the air crew has been able to accomplish, for this plane, the weapon system, the many hours logged during refuelings over the battlefield, over our own country under attack, the amount of cargo we've moved back and forth, and of course the people to and from the battlefield.
After a stop in New Jersey, 008 will fly to her retirement home at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Arizona. Reporting for the 157th Air Refueling Wing, I am Technical Sergeant Thomas Johnson at Pease Air National Guard Base.
Members are well known for volunteering at the 120th Fighter Wing. In this report, Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson tells us about the two recent deployments faced by the Montana Guardsmen.
The last two 120th Fighter Wing deployments could not have been held in more diverse locations. On December 7, 2012, the unit completed alert detachment operations at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Hawaii. 1 month later, the unit's pilots, maintenance personnel, and aircraft were leaving Montana to accept a new alert mission serving as the Expeditionary Fighter Squadron at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. The temperature between the two locations can differ as much as 100 degrees. Even so, the Montana Guard Unit found no shortage of volunteers willing to deploy to Alaska during the month of January.
We had more than enough volunteers to fill the positions that we needed to fulfill this commitment. It was very surprising. It was good. It was easy, actually, in that respect, people volunteering to come up here.
Many of the tasks and requirements of the deployments were similar, but each location offered unique challenges to complete the mission. While in Hawaii, the airmen were concerned with working in tropical heat and needed to dress down to stay cool. But in Alaska, they wore cold weather gear to fight the frigid temperature.
Obviously, long johns, hats, gloves are kind of useless when you're trying to work on aircraft, but essentially lots of layers.
I just layer up the fleece and then wear the Gore-Tex and wear the long johns. Hawaii, it was quite the opposite.
It's estimated that 75 members of the fighter wing had volunteered to serve active duty during both deployments.
Which one do I like better? I'm about 50-50. If I could live in each one half the time, that would just be perfect. Well, and split, I love Montana too. I'll have to third it up, I guess. So.
The Montana Guardsmen stationed in Alaska are now enjoying the gradual rise in temperature and increase in daylight hours experienced in the northern latitudes following the winter solstice. This is Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson reporting for 1st Air Force Now.
Where there's a tornado.
Where there's a forest fire.
Where Mother Nature is at her worst.
We're there. Where there's a search.
Where there's a rescue.
Where there are Americans in need. We're there.
When disaster strikes.
We're one volunteer force.
Helping each other.
And simply doing what needs to be done.
We are the Civil Air Patrol.
The official auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force.
To join, call 1-800-FLY-2338.
Or log on to the World Wide Web at www.cap.gov.
Who serves at the Montana Air National Guard? People just like you. People like Jackie Fogarty, daughter and part-time medical administrator. Ed McLean, prior service Marine Corps. Great Falls police officer and part-time security forces member. Brian Hagee, train engineer and part-time heavy equipment operator. Extraordinary people doing extraordinary jobs. Come join your neighbors, friends, and families as members of the Montana Air National Guard. Call 800-874-7763 or find us on the web at mtairguard.com.
The commander of Air Combat Command, General Mike Hostage, recently visited Tyndall Air Force Base. He shared his thoughts on recent events, including the air defense and civil support missions of 1st Air Force and Air Forces Northern.
As evidenced by the tragedy that occurred in Boston yesterday, there's always the possibility that something bad will happen, and there will be a call for the kind of things that we in the Air Force and specifically the men and women of 1st Air Force provide.
From defending the airspace to providing support to civil authorities, the general noted the value of air power resources and operators.
Ever since 9/11, when we stood up at high rate the Operations Center here at 1st Air Force, the men and women of 1st Air Force have been on the point, putting air power over America anywhere it was needed, during special events, movement of the President, in times of heightened awareness, heightened alert. We, in terms of airmen and air power, were there and ready. We live in an interesting world with hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and things. There's quite often disasters that nobody can predict. And one of the great things about air power and the flexibility of American airmen is we can put a lot of capability into an area of distress very rapidly. And when a state is reeling or a region is reeling from a natural disaster, we have the ability to move people and equipment and such rapidly. And only through the organization and command and control of the 1st Air Force Operations Center can we make that flexibility and agility come to bear at the point of a problem. So we are postured in 1st Air Force and across Air Combat Command to be ready to respond when the nation needs us.
Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, I'm Master Sergeant Jerry Harlan. New York State Police received the last Huey helicopter in the Air Force inventory from Hurlburt Field under a law enforcement support program for excess military equipment. Airman First Class Nicholas Katz reports.
The Air Force's last UH-1H Huey helicopter is getting a new purpose in life thanks to the New York State Police Department.
This particular aircraft will be a heavy use in police missions, all utility missions, because of the cargo capacity and the external cargo carrying capacity for sling load operations, and also for search and rescue.
The transfer is part of the Defense Logistics Agency Law Enforcement Support Organization. It gives other government agencies the opportunity to acquire excess military equipment.
How it helps the state is we're getting a great piece of equipment, a resource from the military that they're phasing out and not using anymore.
These helicopters are in high demand, but no longer needed within the Air Force inventory. So it was perfect timing for the New York State Police.
It's a very good thing that we can support our local community, along, instead of putting these assets out at Davis Moth and the boneyard and then, have them pick to pieces for parts, but in order better to support our law enforcement agencies.
Phil Napolitano says the department plans to use the helicopter for at least the next 20 years. Reporting from Hurlburt Field, I'm Airman First Class Nicholas Katz.
During joint training, police departments and local organizations volunteered to move heritage aircraft to the Militia Museum at Camp Johnson in Colchester, Vermont. Senior Airman Chelsea Clark has the story.
Members of the Vermont Air and Army National Guard moved 2 heritage airframes from the 158th Fighter Wing in South Burlington to the Militia Museum at Camp Johnson in Colchester during a joint training in May. The jets are the first of the heritage airframes to move to the museum, where volunteers will maintain and preserve them for the public.
The museum has grown substantially since it's first conceived, and this is going to be our contribution to that museum.
Sergeant Bouffard also said that moving these aircraft takes a lot of time and logistics, but planning and cooperation make it a success. Local community organizations and police departments assisted in the process and escorted the airframes to their new home at the museum. Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, I'm Senior Airman Chelsea Clark.
A former 60s and 70s era fighter pilot recently had the chance to visit his old unit and share his story with local school children. In Great Falls, Montana, Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson brings us the story.
A former Montana Air National Guard fighter pilot served as a guest speaker to 5th grade students in the Great Falls Starbase classroom in March. Larry Linseth spoke to the students about his experiences flying fighter aircraft and his successful parachute deployment following an aircraft engine flameout during a mission flown over north central Montana in 1971. Linseth enjoyed spending time discussing his flying experiences with the students.
We tend to lose track of generations, but if anything you can pass on to your kids and grandkids, it'll stick around a little longer than maybe.
Linseth flew F-102 Delta Dagger and F-106 Delta Dart fighter aircraft for 10 years from 1964 until 1974, when the Montana unit was a fighter interceptor group. The Air National Guard captain enjoyed flying the F-102, which was the first United States Air Force operational Delta Wing supersonic jet fighter.
It was a great airplane. There's not much I didn't like about it. It was a great flying machine, very forgiving.
The former fighter pilot was excited to be able to tour the base and see the improvements and new additions made since his days serving in the Montana Air National Guard.
I think my favorite memories would probably revolve around the people that I met here, and a lot of them were very good friends. It was a great time in my life, and I loved it, and I look back on it with fondness.
In Great Falls, Montana, this is Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson reporting for 1st Air Force Now.
Members of the 102nd Intelligence Wing faced new challenges during the Tough Mudder fitness run and obstacle courses. Senior Airman Nicoletta Kanakis reports.
Temperatures exceeded 90 degrees when airmen of the Massachusetts Air National Guard participated in the Boston Tough Mudder.
The team, we had about 28 people running the Tough Mudder day, and we all prepared, several of us with CrossFit. Other folks did treadmill training with at a high incline.
And the uniform and our pants is crazy. I don't know what happened to the ladies on the court. All right, first time mudders, make some noise.
Having to run up the mountains or really walk up the mountains was pretty challenging. The actual obstacles themselves, it was teamwork, got everybody over, and it was a great team building event. Everyone had a great time. Go, go.
I think what I like about the Tough Mudder the most, and because I've done lots of 5Ks and different road races, and this organization really tells you that this isn't a race, it's a challenge. And so the goal is to work together, sometimes not even with people on your own team. You're working with like random strangers to accomplish a task. And I think that that's what separates Tough Mudder from pretty much anything else that I've ever done.
For our fallen heroes coming back, representing our fallen heroes.
I guess the one thing about Tough Mudder, and you look at the overall trying to get people more fit in a total fitness setup with our deployments. Now every airman could deploy outside the wire at any time, so it kind of falls into the focus on fitness, I would say, from the Air Force and the Guard Bureau.
The entire team completed the 22 obstacles over a 12-mile course and look forward to getting muddy again in 2014. Senior Airman Nicoletta Kanakis, Guilford, New Hampshire.
Adjusting the radio. 2 seconds. A sip of soda. 5.5 seconds. Checking a text. 6 seconds. A few seconds of distraction can change a life. Stay alert. Save a life.
After a long and arduous process, the California Air National Guard's 144th Fighter Wing received its first F-15 Eagle on June 18th. Senior Master Sergeant Chris Drudge reports.
With the arrival of their first F-15 Eagle on June 18th, the 144th Fighter Wing now has the right aircraft in the right location with the right mission capabilities to do the job that the National Command Authority asks them to do on a day-to-day basis, which is defend the American people.
The arrival of this jet today would definitely not be possible if it weren't for all the hard work and support from our community, from our state leadership, from our military leadership, from our past and present airmen who've served in the 144th, and all the dedication by all those folks who've made this possible.
If you haven't figured it out, this is a big day for this wing. It's really a big day for air defense of the United States. The airplane you see to your left and my right represents a tremendous increase in combat capability to this wing and to this nation in this location. When you're defending the United States, location and equipment matter, and the people that are operating the equipment matter.
You know, I've got to tell you, this conversion is so important for what Colonel Garrison just said a minute ago. It's the right machine for the right mission in the right place, and that is just absolutely key to we're actually doing things correctly with a strategy that supports the American people and defends the people of America.
This is a day we have all been waiting for, and it is long overdue, so congratulations, 144th Fighter Wing. We are proud of you.
For 1st Air Force Now, this has been Senior Master Sergeant Chris Drudge.
The North Dakota's 119th Wing added another accolade to a long list of the Wing's accomplishments. From Fargo, Sergeant First Class Amy Weezer-Wilson reports.
As a streamer was added for the 15th time, the Happy Hooligans were again honored with the Air Force Outstanding Unit Award. Being acknowledged as one of the best that many times is a feat achieved by few, if any, other Guard units.
But whether it's unprecedented or not, I know this, it's not unexpected. Not because people just assume that it's going to happen, but it's not unexpected because of the extraordinary record of the 119th. The 119th North Dakota Air National Guard distinguished itself by exceptional, meritorious service, exceeding national goals.
The award highlights the Guard's explosive ordnance disposal airmen for their role in combat operations in Afghanistan. It also acknowledges the 219th Security Forces Squadron. The Air Guardsmen are the only in the nation to serve alongside active duty forces to provide missile field security.
I remember back in 2007 being here when at that point the 12th Outstanding Unit Award was presented, and I remember thinking, wow, that is really fantastic. And then I remember being here in 2008 as the 13th award was being presented. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. And of course, it was 2010 that we stood here, and I thought, this is phenomenal. And here we are today, 2013, and I'm not sure what the right word is, but I do know that we have over 1,080 super airmen in the 119th Wing that have earned this distinction and this honor. So thank you to all of the members of the Wing for what you've done, literally over the years, to bring us to this point today.
Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, I'm Sergeant First Class Amy Weezer-Wilson.
The 122nd Fighter Wing in Fort Wayne, Indiana recently opened Bear Field Heritage Air Park. The park will display aircraft from 1947 to the present. Tech Sergeant Michael Appat brings us the story.
Hearts and minds, countless volunteer hours and hard work paved the way for the construction of the Bear Field Heritage Air Park.
The purpose of building Heritage Park is to allow people to come in and see the heritage of the base, of the 122nd, and what planes we've had here, and let them sit and enjoy their time with their families while learning about the base and actually watching our own jets take off and planes land at the airport.
The aircrafts on display were flown from 1947 to present time. On Tuesday, May 14th, the 122nd Fighter Wing and our community partners proudly announced the opening of the Heritage Park.
I want to personally thank you for coming to be with us as we ribbon cut the beginning of a wonderful air park for all Hoosiers and visitors to enjoy when they come to the greater Fort Wayne area.
For some, an emotional reaction of their dedication to the project.
Who have volunteered much of their time for me. I really appreciate it.
Additionally, a unit vehicle from a tenant unit from the Army National Guard is also on display. The park will have ample parking, a pavilion, a playground for children, and picnic benches throughout. The park is open to everyone in the community free of charge between 9 a.m. till dusk. It's a park unlike many because the public can enjoy the close proximity of the aircrafts without being on the flight line. Reporting for the 122nd Fighter Wing, I'm Tech Sergeant Michael Apat.
Staff Sergeant Mark Payton is an artist with a camera, deployed with the 120th Fighter Wing. Alaska has provided a goldmine of opportunities to practice his craft. Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson has the story.
120th Fighter Wing Staff Sergeant Mark Payton is an artist with a camera. The Alaska deployment has provided a goldmine of opportunities for him to photograph.
Oh, I kind of like mostly landscape, outdoor. I do action shots for the most part. You know, I find portraits probably more challenging, just posing and dealing with people, whereas landscape and nighttime photography is pretty simple. Camera on a tripod and you know, the right exposure and the right eye, you can really pull off some amazing stuff. I really came up here hoping to capture the Northern Lights, and I finally did just a little over a week ago, and I got some really decent shots out of that. One way to become a better photographer is to look at other people's photos. I look at thousands of photos and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and I like to kind of emulate what I see. Basically, looking at other people's stuff, other images, really will improve your photography immensely. And then I also can share tips with other people that are just getting started, and that's, you know, that's kind of fun too.
This is Senior Master Sergeant Eric Peterson reporting for 1st Air Force Now.
The 379th Air Expeditionary Wing supports a large mission in Southeast Asia, ensuring troops on the front have medical supplies when needed. Staff Sergeant Michael Wykes tells us the story.
An IFAC, or Individual First Aid Kit, is a service member's first line of defense against an injury suffered on the front lines. The kits contain a variety of items like bandages, electrolyte drink mix, and tourniquets. Ensuring that these kits are ready for deployed service members is a top priority for the 379th Air Expeditionary Wing Medical Group, who gather volunteers on a monthly basis to recertify each IFAC.
They need to be recertified just to make sure that the items will last for a year, 6 months to a year longer, and they're good to go for other people. It's very important because we want to make sure that for the people downrange, they have all their meds and everything is not expired when they're hurt or injured. When they pull out this kit, that everything is good to go.
Thanks to the tireless efforts of the 379th Medical Group, service members downrange can rest easier knowing that they have a wingman or battle buddy in the rear, ensuring that their IFACs are fully certified and ready to handle any battlefield medical emergency that may come their way. Air Force Staff Sergeant Michael Wykes, Southwest Asia.
I'm Master Sergeant Jerry Harlan, and that wraps up another edition of 1st Air Force Now. To help us tell your story, contact the 1st Air Force News Director. And to all the men and women who are making sacrifices at home and abroad, thanks. We'll see you again soon with another edition of 1st Air Force Now.